is just fantastic. So after the rip-roaringly successful video I did earlier in the week on iMouse, and I've been corrected on the pronunciation, I'm going to get it wrong again because I don't care anymore, Vshojo, yeah, I'm calling them that. If it's wrong, don't give a shit. You don't deserve respect to be called by your actual name. There have been updates, and they're all worth addressing. For example, iMouse... Why are you barking? Okay, two dogs are fighting in the other room. Sorry if you hear it yapping and all that. iMouse continued to raise money for charity. Over $1 million has been raised. That is amazing, by the way. The Immunodeficiency Foundation, Immune Deficiency, my apologies, on Twitter publicly thanked iMouse and iMouse's community on Twitter with a video, 2-minute long video, with the CEO, president and CEO of the foundation personally thanking for this. And rightly so, it's fantastic news really. Anyone that has that kind of ability to right a very big wrong, have their trust blown well and truly out of the water, to still be able to take what they have, the gift they've got, the community they have, and the internet at large, and raise that kind of money is someone that should be championed. Whether you like VTubers or not, I don't care. People who raise money for charity, yeah, I care. Especially if we know the money is going to charity. That's a big deal. Completionist, you should take note of this. Yesterday on Twitter, I was alerted on a live stream actually, but on Twitter, Vshojo had finally put out a statement, which was community noted as well, by the way. We'll get to it all, don't you worry. Vshojo has failed, and I've mismanaged the company into the situation you're all witnessing. So today I'm sharing the difficult news that Vshojo is shutting down, and I take full responsibility for the decisions that led us to this point. I've been doing everything I can to fundraise and right the ship these past few months, but despite my efforts, we are in a worse position and those I care about are now paying the price. Over the past few years, we raised about $11 million to pursue a bold, talent-first approach in VTubing, prioritizing creators and community over short-term profits to achieve long-term sustainability. Our funding went directly to the creators through generous splits, debut investments, infrastructure, concerts, events, and staffing, all designed to support them. We also wanted talent to own their IP, which we knew was a unique creator-first approach for an agency. However, despite all our efforts, the business failed to generate the revenue we needed to sustain that model, and eventually we ran out of money. Additionally, I acknowledge that some of the money spent by the company was raised in connection with talent activity, which I later learned was intended for a charitable initiative. At the time, we were working hard to raise additional investment capital to cover our costs, and I firmly believed, based on the information available to us, that we would have been able to do so and cover all expenses. We were unsuccessful in our fundraising efforts. I made the decision to pursue funding, and I own its consequences. I am deeply sorry to all the talent, staff, friends and community members who believed in our brand. You did not deserve this, Justin. There are a number of points here that need to be addressed, and the community note aptly covers that. Justin claims to not know the purpose of the funds, but he personally congratulated iMouse on the completion of a charity fundraising event, and reposted Ludwig directly mentioning that half the funds would go to charity. Included are a number of tweets that are archived and a Polygon article. As you can see on the screen, the retweet from Gunrun aka Justin concerning Ludwig, Gunrun aka Justin replying to iMouse on Twitter back in September 2024, you did it mouse, cap, so you did it mouse. And obviously a Polygon article basically regurgitating those two tweets into a long form article. I'm not going to go through Polygon though because it's full of ads, or aids, depending on how you interpret it. Now there are other aspects of this. First of all, raising money and then claiming to give it to others instead, promoting events and apparently not making money from it. This would imply a failed business model from the offset. Working with the creators, perhaps a better deal could have been arranged where a business could have succeeded as a business. You didn't have the backing of stake, and I don't mean the meat, I mean like kick with stake, to be able to be a platform that many go to. In your case, a talent agency. From the outside, it looks like a company took advantage of very vulnerable individuals that happen to be VTubers. You shutting down is hardly a surprise, because the word embezzlement comes to mind. I don't care if your business was failing. I care that $500,000 intended for charity didn't go to charity. Additionally, you shutting down would come across by many, or be seen by many, as you trying to avoid criminality. Is that the word? Yes, maybe. I think the point is obvious enough. To circumvent any legal repercussions, shut the business down, cut your losses, and walk away. Practice the following, Justin. Would you like fries with that? What tickles me about a lot of this is that, as Tectone has pointed out, a lot of NDAs are about to be dissolved. And he's right. But something we should address first. The harassment of Silvervale. Now, we've covered Silvervale before in the context of Cinder. Vshojo told her she was a burden. Now, I am going to read a tweet from Rima Evenstar that adequately covers a lot of this, because it's important context, just to show that while they may seem like they're, Vshojo that is, being responsible, they were irresponsible throughout their entire existence. We have had no idea how bad it was. During the Hogwarts Legacy controversy, Silvervale had a call with Gunrun, Justin, someone she admired. She said she was told she was a disappointing, harmful to the brand, and that her harassment was an inconvenience to other talents. She was told not to speak to them and was suspended from streaming. When they left, they were discredited to staff and painted as greedy for asking for more money. This was backed up by Nyanas. If I mispronounced that name, I do apologize. Quote, so many horrible things just to avoid the truth that they were stealing from us. Vshojo announced Silver and Vey's departures together to make it seem like a joint decision and blocked Nyanas from leaving at the same time. They held her hostage. Silver later found out she was slandered to artists, companies, and business partners she had worked with through Vshojo. Her first Vshojo contract had no exit clause. Quote, I made more money in the first few months of Mythic than my entire time at Vshojo. The threat of them suing me was very real, and it haunted me for a very long time. Even before it was announced that I was leaving, I had just mentioned in my Discord, just like casually, that I was stressed and needed to cancel the stream, and they contacted my lawyer because of that, and threatened to sue me if I hinted I was leaving or unhappy at all. Just because I said I was stressed, so imagine if I'd said anything else. They were watching us like a hawk. I think they were watching all of us. On IP rights, of course we keep our IPs, we started with them. Vshojo made it a bit of a statement about intellectual property, didn't they now? Underneath are a number of clips of Silvervale discussing this, and I'm going to play one of those here.
I was put into a call with Gunn, the CEO of the company, like someone that I admired and I looked up to and I wanted to please, someone that I thought was the coolest person ever. And he told me that I was a damage to the brand, that I was a disappointment. I was told that me being harassed was an inconvenience to the other talents and not to talk to them.
If anyone's bothered by the sound of 3 dogs in my background playing, I don't care. You're welcome. So to those who have been released from their NDAs, Ayuki Akiba announced, I'm released from my NDA. I want to assure everyone that the staff I've had the pleasure to work with were competent and were very aware of the needful and understood the importance of process-defined workflow. It was a great feeling to know that helping the talents was always the priority, and I'm happy to have been a volunteer with community management. It is disappointing that mismanagement of the company has resulted in the greater vision dying. Outside of that, everything I know is not my story to tell. Vey put out a tweet as well by saying, and so our NDAs are now void. Why I left Vshojo. Back in 2023, Vshojo tried to bully me into one of the most predatory contracts I've ever seen. When I tried to ask more about it, their COO got extremely hostile with me and refused to answer any of my questions. And so I had to hire a lawyer to get some clarification. During the talks, it became clear that Vshojo would rather let me go than take less away from me. They were ultimately wanting me to give up more than half of all my sponsor revenue and over 60% of all merch sales. All I asked from them in return is to not take a cut of the sponsors that I was getting through Mythic. As that cut was already being taken, they said no, they wanted it all. And so I asked to leave after being treated like I was disposable in our talks. They basically made it seem like they were my employer, and that they're the reason for my success, that I owe them, and that I should be happy to give them more money. In order for me to leave, they demanded I sign an NDA that prevented me from speaking to any of the other talent about it. I could not say why I was leaving. I could not say what the terms that I was saying no to were. I even got in trouble for advising them to hire their own attorneys. They would watch my streams, read my Discord, and then threaten to sue me. If I said anything that hinted towards how I really felt about the company, I was threatened with a lawsuit. Another one of their leave terms was that they will announce both me and Silver on the same day in order to minimize the damage to their company. Their COO has begun to push a narrative on 4chan, yes, I'm serious, and other social media, that I'm leaving because I plan to join OTK, and that both me and Silvervale are troublemakers. So they were letting us go. Later, I found out that Nyanas wanted to leave around the same time due to being unhappy with their contract, but was also told that she couldn't because it did not fit their narrative that they were pushing internally and externally. The amount of hate we've gotten over leaving, from fans calling us greedy bitches, to people saying we're abandoning our friends and tossing aside the company because we're successful enough, was effing painful. Not being able to say anything sucked. I only found out I didn't get paid for any of my sponsors after I already signed the NDA. After 2 years, I have still not been paid back fully. To add insult to injury, they also demanded I pay them back $10,000 for some of the anniversary assets, which when they sent me back months later were half finished. Despite all of that, I've had immense faith that the company has gotten better over the past 2 years. I assumed they rewrote their contracts after losing 3 people due to them and seeing all the new talent join. Clearly this was not the case. Now for some fun facts. Their company lawyer has an expired law license. They actively pitted us against one another during my time there, and compared our success to others. They tried enforcing streaming schedules so that our view count would look better due to less overlap. They would always shit-talk other VTuber agencies. They literally would spend company money to get a tiny dig at them, especially HoloLive. It literally lived rent-free in Gunrun's head, Justin. They were convinced HoloLive was over when they signed K-Sun and Azuna. Our previous talent manager got ghosted for 6 months by Gunrun, told not to do any work for us, and then got fired for not doing anything. During this fiasco, we weren't able to get any assistance. MTD got reprimanded for being creepy to us, got told not to message us privately. Go figure. I have proof from other streamers attending their IRL parties that MTD would actively shit-talk me after I left the company to paint me in the worst possible light imaginable. Don't know why you're acting innocent on Twitter pretending you weren't aware of anything. Can't wait to see all that when that comes out about you because there's loads. But those aren't my stories to tell. I'm getting the feeling from they here that things aren't looking so good, and that statement from Vshojo looks like absolute dog plop. Iron Mouse, who of course started this ball rolling, had replied to Vshojo by saying, "You broke my heart, my spirit, and my trust," along with later saying, "I have no words, I don't even know what to say." Legal Mindset, who's been covering a lot of this from the offset, had tweeted out, "They failed to secure a loan on their unprofitable business and embezzlement $500,000. Later saying the only reason the Vshojo CEO included the later learned language is to try to keep himself out of criminal hot water, which I tend to agree. In fact, I said it earlier. If you're trying to circumvent responsibility, the best way to do it is to try and feign ignorance. However, based on what we now know of how you treated Silvervale and Vey and Nyanas, we now know that you were balls deep in this. And the ignorance when it came to raising money for charity is hollow because you retweeted Ludwig and you replied directly to Iron Mouse in tweets that have been archived, which means, thankfully, the internet's forever. Archive makes sure of it. I like archive links. They're my favourite. My view on this then, and my view on this now is the following. It's consistent. It is embezzlement, 100%. You can try and claim you weren't making money, but based on what we're now learning from those who are no longer bound to NDAs, you were making a lot of money. You may claim, but we were investing it in this, and this. You didn't need to. To build a good business model, all you ever had to do is sit back for a while, let things simmer and grow naturally, rather than rushing to the finish line. An ironic statement, because in your statement, you talked about long-term success, yet the very thing you were doing was short-term. It had to be short-term because long-term minds think, ooh, should we throw lots of money at it now, or do we bleed it out slowly? In this instance, with the way the landscape changed with social media, slow is always better. Apparently, you swindled a charity out of $500,000. That is your legacy. You had an opportunity to be something beneficial to the VTuber community, but ultimately, you weren't. You're bullies. You're sausages, and quite frankly, I don't care. If you guys suffer, struggle, whatever, I hope you suffer. I hope there are legal repercussions. I really do. Now, as we reach the end of the subject, I'd love to know what you all think. Please do let me know in the comments down below. If I don't see you on Twitch or Kick later for some gaming, I hope you have a wonderful day. I'll probably see you back here tomorrow for a live stream. Yeah, I'm doing more of those now. Bye, everyone.
But whenever anyone was like, oh, I love Vshojo so much, it's so cool that they get to keep their IP. Bitch, we own our IP. We started with our IP. Of course we get to own it. It's ours. Why are you celebrating that? Like, oh, bad things happen, but they get to keep what they own. Like, duh.